The anomaly. The Sentinel outpost on the edge of the Hikari Void hadn't registered an unscheduled vessel in over 40 cycles. Commander Ziv Talos found the monotony comforting. It meant the border was secure, that the collective's dominion remained unchallenged. The 8-limbed Valkyrie officer glided across the monitoring station with practiced efficiency, his iridescent scales catching the blue light of the displays. "Status report," he demanded, settling into his command chair. Lieutenant Nara, a younger Valkyrie whose scales hadn't yet developed the deep azure of maturity, swiveled in her seat. "All sectors clear, Commander. The void remains." She stopped abruptly, her head frills stiffening in alarm. "Lieutenant," Ziv prodded. "Something just appeared in Sector 7, sir. No jump signature, no warp distortion. It's just there." Ziv moved to her console with surprising speed for his bulk. "Impossible. Nothing enters real space without a transition signature." Yet the evidence was unmistakable on the display. A vessel approximately 300 meters in length had materialized in a region of space that had been empty moments before. Its design was unlike anything in their database, sleek and predatory, with sweeping lines that suggested both elegance and deadly purpose. "Run identification protocols," Ziv ordered, feeling the first tendrils of unease curling around his spine ridges. Nara's fingers danced across the interface. "No match in current registries, sir." She hesitated, her voice dropping. "Expanding search to historical records." The system hummed, cross-referencing the mysterious ship against thousands of vessel designs from across the known galaxy. When the match finally appeared, the alert tone seemed to echo in the suddenly silent command center. "That's not possible," Ziv whispered, staring at the classification. The screen displayed a simple designation: Human Originen, 89% PROBABLITY. "Humans have been extinct for 50 cycles," Nara said, her voice trembling slightly. "The Purification War eliminated their colonies. Their homeworld was quarantined and sterilized." Ziv's upper limbs tensed. "Evidently not. Alert Central Command immediately. Priority Alpha." As Nara transmitted the alert, Ziv studied the vessel more carefully. Its hull appeared to absorb rather than reflect sensor scans, making detailed analysis difficult. No energy emissions were detected, suggesting it was either powered down or utilizing technology that concealed its power signature. "Sir," Nara called, "Central Command is dispatching the 7th Fleet. Admiral Kosh Varda will be taking command personally. We're ordered to maintain observation, but not approach." "Understood." Ziv returned to his command chair, eyes never leaving the mysterious vessel. "Enhanced visual monitoring. I want to know if that ship so much as rotates." For the next 6 hours, the human vessel remained motionless. Passive scans revealed nothing new, and Ziv found himself growing increasingly agitated. Humans were supposed to be a closed chapter in galactic history, a cautionary tale of a species that had expanded too rapidly, challenged the established order, and paid the ultimate price. The collective had systematically erased humanity from the stars, their defeat so complete that many younger species didn't even know humans had once been a spacefaring civilization. The restricted zone around Earth had been established not out of respect, but as a monument to the collective's power, a warning to any who might consider defying their authority. "Sir," Nara interrupted his thoughts, "the 7th Fleet has arrived." On the main viewer, a dozen collective warships emerged from hyperspace, arranged in standard combat formation. The flagship, the imposing dreadnought Unyielding Decree, took position at the center, its massive frame dwarfing the human vessel. "Incoming transmission from Admiral Kosh Varda," Nara announced. The Admiral's weathered face appeared on screen, his silver scales marking him as one of the oldest living Valkyrie. "Commander Ziv Talos, report." "Admiral, the unidentified vessel appeared approximately 6 hours ago without any detectable transition signature. It matches historical records of human design, but shows no signs of activity." No response to standard hailing frequencies. Koshvarda's eyes narrowed. Humans. After all this time. He seemed to be speaking more to himself than to Ziv. Have you detected any other vessels in the area? Negative, Admiral. Whatever method it used to appear didn't register on our sensors. Very well. My fleet will take over from here. Maintain your position and continue monitoring. If more human vessels appear, I want immediate notification. The transmission ended, and Ziv exchanged a worried glance with Nera. Why would a single human ship appear after 50 cycles? He wondered aloud. Perhaps it's automated, Nera suggested. A relic from before the war that somehow remained operational all this time. Ziv wasn't convinced. No ship's systems could function that long without maintenance, especially in the void. On the viewer, they watched as the 7th Fleet surrounded the human vessel, weapons primed. A tractor beam from the unyielding decree reached out to capture the ship. What happened next would be recorded in collective archives as the Void Incident, the moment when everything the collective thought they knew about humanity was proven catastrophically wrong. The human vessel, previously dormant, suddenly blazed with light. The tractor beam dissipated before making contact, and a pulse of energy, invisible except for the distortion it created in the fabric of space, emanated outward. Every system on the Sentinel outpost flickered simultaneously. When power stabilized seconds later, the viewer showed a scene of impossible chaos. The mighty 7th Fleet, pride of the collective, drifted powerless, their systems completely disabled. Only the human vessel remained operational, now glowing with a subtle blue luminescence along its hull. By the first egg, Nara whispered, "What just happened?" Before Ziv could respond, the communications array activated without prompting. A voice spoke in flawless Valkyrie, though with an accent none of them had ever heard before. "Attention Valkyrie observation post and disabled fleet vessels. This is Captain Ilara Reyes of the Earth reclamation ship Phoenix Dawn. Your vessels have been temporarily neutralized as a precautionary measure. No permanent damage has been inflicted. Systems will restore automatically in approximately 1 standard hour." Ziv stared at the screen in shock. A human, speaking their language, commanding technology that had disabled an entire battle fleet without firing a shot. "You claimed our extinction." The human continued, her voice carrying a weight of controlled anger. "You believed the story of humanity's end was written. You were mistaken." Admiral Koshvarda's voice broke through on an emergency channel, distorted but audible. "Human vessel, this is Admiral Koshvarda of the Collective. Your presence in restricted space is a violation of galactic law. Power down your systems immediately or face destruction when our fleet recovers." There was a pause before Captain Reyes responded. "Admiral, I suggest you use this hour to consider your position carefully. Humanity is not as you remember us. We have evolved during our absence from galactic affairs. The Phoenix Dawn is but one vessel, a messenger. There are others." The communication ended abruptly, leaving the outpost in stunned silence. Ziv found himself gripping his command chair with all 8 limbs, an instinctive defensive posture his species adopted when threatened. "Sir," Nara's voice was barely audible. "Sensors are detecting spatial distortions at the edge of our range. Something's happening." The viewer shifted to show the distant edge of the void. Space itself seemed to ripple and fold in ways that defied conventional physics. Through these distortions, shapes began to emerge, vessels of varying sizes, all bearing design elements similar to the Phoenix Dawn. "Count," Ziv demanded, his voice harsh with disbelief. 27. No, 34. "Sir, they keep appearing." The count is now at 53 vessels, and rising. By the time the 7th Fleet regained power an hour later, over 200 human ships had assembled at the edge of sensor range. They maintained a non-aggressive formation, but their message was clear. Humanity had returned, and they were no longer the vulnerable species the collective had nearly exterminated 50 cycles ago. Admiral Koshvarda's next transmission to the Sentinel outpost was terse. "Commander, you are to relay everything you've observed directly to the High Council. I will remain here with the fleet to assess the situation." Ziv recognized the fear underlying the Admiral's measured tones. For the first time in recorded history, the collective faced something they hadn't anticipated and clearly didn't understand. As he prepared his report, Ziv couldn't help but wonder what had happened to humanity during their absence. How had they survived? Where had they been hiding? And most disturbingly, what did they want now that they had returned? The answers would soon shake the foundations of galactic society, but for now, all eyes remained fixed on the Phoenix Dawn and its enigmatic captain, the first human most living members of the collective had ever seen, and potentially the harbinger of a new era in galactic history. At the edge of the void where nothing was supposed to exist, humanity had reappeared. And judging by their demonstration against the Seventh Fleet, they had not spent the last 50 cycles licking their wounds. They had been preparing. First contact. Admiral Koshvarda paced the bridge of the unyielding decree, his silver scales catching the emergency lighting that had replaced the standard illumination following the power restoration. The humiliation of having his entire fleet disabled by a single human vessel burned through him like acid. "Status report," he barked at his executive officer. Commander Thrix, a younger Valkyrie with jade-tinted scales, responded promptly. "All critical systems have been restored, Admiral. Weapons are at 87% capacity, shields at 92%. The propulsion system is still experiencing fluctuations. Engineering estimates full restoration within 30 minutes. And the human vessels? They maintain their position, Admiral. 237 ships in total, arranged in a defensive formation. They've made no aggressive movements since our systems came back online." Koshvarda's jaw tightened. 237 ships that had appeared without using any known form of faster-than-light technology. 237 ships with capabilities that made the pride of the collective fleet look primitive by comparison. "Open a direct channel to the Phoenix Dawn." "Channel open, Admiral." Koshvarda straightened his posture, his head frills extending to their full intimidating span, a biological response he couldn't entirely suppress. "Captain Rice, this is Admiral Koshvarda. I demand an explanation for your unprovoked attack on collective forces and your presence in restricted space." The view screen flickered to life, revealing the human captain. Ilara Rice was not what Koshvarda had expected. Historical records depicted humans as soft, fragile creatures with minimal physical capabilities. The woman before him seemed anything but fragile. Her posture was perfect, her dark eyes sharp and assessing. Faint luminescent patterns traced her temples and disappeared beneath her collar, some kind of technological augmentation, he assumed. "Admiral," she responded, her voice measured, "we did not attack your fleet. We neutralized a direct threat after you attempted to capture our vessel. Had we wished to destroy you, we would have done so." "You violated restricted space," Koshvarda countered. "This sector has been closed by order of the Collective Council for 50 cycles." A slight smile crossed Raya's face, though it held no warmth. "Restricted from whom, Admiral? The dead? You declared this sector off-limits after you believed you had eliminated humanity. We are simply reclaiming what was once ours." Koshvarda felt his second heart begin to pulse faster, a sign of mounting stress among his species. "Where have you been hiding? How did you survive the purification?" "That's a rather long story," Rice replied. "One I'm prepared to share, but not over an open channel. I propose a face-to-face meeting. Your vessel or mine. The choice is yours." The suggestion sent murmurs across the bridge. A physical meeting with a human was unprecedented in modern times. "You expect me to trust you after you disabled my fleet. I expect you to be curious, Admiral. You're facing something your history books told you was impossible. And right now, you have two options: engage in diplomacy or report to your superiors that the supposedly extinct human race has returned with technology that renders your most powerful weapons useless. She paused, allowing her words to sink in. Which would you prefer? Kosh Varda recognized the trap. If he refused to meet and attempted to escalate the confrontation, he risked further humiliation, or worse. If he retreated to report to the council, he would appear weak. But meeting personally with this human carried its own risks. Very well, he finally said. I will come to your vessel with a small security detail. Excellent. We await your arrival, Admiral. Phoenix dawn out. As the transmission ended, Commander Thrix approached cautiously. Admiral, is this wise? The historical archives indicate humans are unpredictable and potentially dangerous. The historical archives also indicated they were extinct, Kosh Varda replied dryly. Prepare a shuttle and a security team. 4 officers, no more. And Commander? He fixed Thrix with a stern gaze. While I'm aboard the human vessel, you are to take no action against their fleet, regardless of what occurs. Is that understood? Yes, Admiral, Thrix replied, though his frills flattened in disagreement. 30 minutes later, Kosh Varda's shuttle departed the unyielding decree, making its way toward the Phoenix dawn. As they approached, the Admiral studied the human vessel through the viewports. The ship's design defied conventional engineering principles. Its hull appeared almost fluid, with sections that seemed to phase between solid matter and energy in rhythmic pulses. Sensors can't penetrate their hull, reported the pilot. We're being guided in by their traffic control. A seam appeared in the side of the Phoenix dawn, widening into a hangar bay. The shuttle glided in smoothly, settling onto the deck with barely a tremor. As the bay repressurized, Kosh Varda noted the absence of visible mechanisms. No pumps, no vents, just a shimmer in the air as atmosphere was restored. Atmosphere analysis confirms compatible mixture, Admiral, said one of his security officers. No detected toxins or pathogens. The shuttle's hatch opened, and Kosh Varda stepped out, his security detail falling in behind him. The hangar was surprisingly austere. Clean lines, minimal equipment, and a subtle blue luminescence similar to that which had appeared on the ship's hull during its demonstration of power. The door slid open at the far end of the bay, and 3 figures entered. In the center walked Captain Rice, flanked by 2 others. One male human, and one being Kosh Varda couldn't immediately classify. It appeared humanoid but had distinctly non-human features, including a crystalline exoskeleton that caught and refracted the ambient light. Admiral Kosh Varda. Reyes greeted him with a slight bow. Welcome aboard the Phoenix Dawn. Allow me to introduce my executive officer, Commander Julian Chen, and our chief science officer, Dr. Nexus. Kosh Varda nodded stiffly. Captain Reyes, if you and your team will follow us, we've prepared a conference room for our discussion. As they walked through the corridors of the Phoenix Dawn, Kosh Varda observed everything with a critical eye. The ship's interior was as unusual as its exterior. Walls that seemed both solid and permeable, lighting that adjusted automatically to their presence, and occasionally, sections of corridor that appeared to reconfigure themselves as they approach. Your technology is unfamiliar, he commented, breaking the silence. Yes, Rise replied simply. Much has changed in 50 cycles. They arrived at a conference room where a large circular table dominated the center. The captain gestured for them to take seats, and Kosh Varda noted that the chairs adjusted automatically to accommodate Valkyrie physiology as his officers sat down. Once settled, Rise placed her hand on the table's surface. A holographic display materialized above the center, showing a rotating image of Earth, the human homeworld, as it had appeared before the purification. I believe we should begin with what you think you know, Admiral, she said. According to collective history, humanity was deemed an existential threat to galactic stability due to our unchecked expansion and technological development. The collective launched what you term the Purification War, systematically destroying human colonies and ultimately quarantining Earth after rendering it uninhabitable through orbital bombardment. Is that an accurate summary? Kosh Varda's frills twitched slightly. That is the essence of it. Yes. Then let me show you what actually happened. She waved her hand, and the hologram changed, displaying footage that Kashvarda had never seen. Massive evacuation ships departing Earth, even as collective forces bombarded the planet from orbit. When your forces attacked, we were prepared, Rise explained. Not for the scale of your assault. We hadn't anticipated the collective's willingness to commit genocide, but we had contingency plans. Operation Exodus evacuated 1.2 billion humans before Earth became uninhabitable. Impossible, one of Kashvarda's officers interjected. Our forces blockaded the system. Nothing could have escaped. Dr. Nexus spoke for the first time, its voice carrying a harmonic quality that seemed to resonate in Kashvarda's chest. Your forces blocked all known hyperspace routes. By then, we had developed alternatives. The hologram shifted again, showing what appeared to be ships passing through rifts in space. Not the familiar distortions of hyperspace travel, but something altogether different. Dimensional phasing, Rice continued. Crude by our current standards, but effective enough to evacuate our population to regions beyond the collective's reach. Kashvarda stared at the display, his worldview crumbling around him. Where did you go? Beyond the boundaries of what you consider mapped space, Rice replied. To systems your astronomers haven't even cataloged, deep in what you call the dark sectors. The dark sectors, vast regions of space deemed uninhabitable due to radiation storms and stellar instabilities. No collective expedition had ever penetrated deeply into those regions and returned. You've been there all this time, for 50 cycles. Building. Commander Chen spoke up. Learning. Evolving. The collective forced humanity to adapt or die. We chose to adapt. Reyes nodded. The humans you nearly exterminated no longer exist, Admiral. What stands before you is something new, a fusion of biological evolution and technological integration. We've transcended many of the limitations your ancestors exploited in their campaign against us. As if to demonstrate, Reyes raised her hand. The luminescent patterns on her skin brightened, and a complex holographic display emerged from her fingertips, showing equations and schematics that Kashvarda couldn't begin to comprehend. This is direct neural interface technology, she explained. One of many advancements we've made. Our ships aren't merely vessels we control, they're extensions of ourselves. The Phoenix Dawn responds to my thoughts as readily as your body responds to yours. Why return now? Kashvarda asked, struggling to maintain his composure in the face of these revelations. After 50 cycles of hiding, why reveal yourselves? Rice dismissed the holographic display with a flick of her wrist. Because it's time. The universe is changing, Admiral. Forces are in motion that the collective, in its isolation and arrogance, remains blind to. What forces? Speak plainly, human. Have you noticed the increasing instability of hyperspace routes in the outer systems? The unusual stellar phenomena in the galactic core? The disappearance of the Thraxi civilization 3 cycles ago? Kashvarda's eyes narrowed. These were classified matters, known only to the highest levels of collective leadership. How could you possibly know about those events? Because we've been watching, Rice said simply. While you believed us extinct, we established observation posts throughout collective space. We've monitored your communications, your scientific discoveries, your political developments. And we've seen what you haven't, patterns indicating something ancient is awakening at the galaxy's edge. Dr. Nexus stepped forward, its crystalline form shifting subtly. I am not human, Admiral. I represent the luminary, a species that evolved in the dark sectors, beyond your knowledge. We are one of 17 non-collective species that have allied with humanity over the past 50 cycles. This revelation sent a chill through Kashvarda. Not only had humanity survived, but they had built alliances with unknown species beyond collective influence. You speak of threats and alliances, Kashvarda said carefully. Are you proposing some form of cooperation with the collective, after everything that has passed between our peoples? Pragmatism, Admiral, Rais replied. The past cannot be undone. The atrocities committed against humanity cannot be erased. But extinction, true extinction, threatens us all if we cannot move beyond old hatreds. She gestured, and the holographic display changed once more, showing a region of space Kosh-Varda didn't recognize. Within it, massive structures moved with deliberate purpose, constructs that dwarfed even the largest collective dreadnoughts. We call them the Harbingers, Rais said quietly. They've been dormant for millennia, but something has awakened them. They've already consumed 3 star systems in the dark sectors. At their current trajectory, they will reach collective space within 5 cycles. Kosh-Varda stared at the display, his military mind calculating the implications. If what these humans showed was true, if these harbingers were real, the collective faced a threat unlike anything in recorded history. You expect me to believe this, to take the word of a species that has every reason to seek revenge against the collective. I expect you to verify it yourself, Rais countered. We're providing you with the coordinates of the affected systems and our analysis of the Harbinger technology. Send your own scouts if you wish, but do it quickly, Admiral. Time is not our ally in this matter. Commander Chen placed a data crystal on the table. Everything we know about the Harbingers is contained here. Take it to your scientists, your military strategists. They'll confirm what we've told you. Kosh-Varda made no move to take the crystal. And what do you propose, Captain? That we simply welcome humanity back into the galactic community, as if the purification never happened. What I propose, Admiral, is survival, Rais said, her voice hardening. The Phoenix Dawn and the fleet you've seen represent only a fraction of our forces. We could have returned seeking vengeance. Instead, we come offering alliance against a common enemy. She leaned forward, her augmented eyes seeming to pierce through Kosh-Varda's defenses. The question you must ask yourself is this: can the collective afford to fight a war on 2 fronts, against humanity and against the Harbingers? Because make no mistake, if you reject our offer, we will not stand aside and allow the collective to continue as it has. The age of human subjugation is over. The threat was clear, yet delivered with such calm certainty that Kosh-Varda found himself genuinely unsettled for the first time in his long career. This was not the desperate plea of a beaten species seeking terms. This was a power that knew its strength, offering the collective a choice between cooperation or conflict. After a moment of tense silence, Kosh-Varda reached for the data crystal. I will take this to the Council. They will decide how to proceed. Of course, Rais nodded. We'll remain in this sector awaiting their response. But Admiral, her expression grew solemn. The Council should understand that their decision will determine the course of galactic history for generations to come. Choose wisely. As Kosh-Varda and his detail prepared to depart, Rais offered one final observation. 50 cycles ago, your ancestors believed they were securing the collective's future by eliminating a potential rival. Instead, they created something far more formidable than humanity would have become through natural development. She gestured around them at the miraculous ship, the living testament to human ingenuity and persistence. Sometimes, Admiral, the greatest threat isn't the enemy you can see, but the one you create through your own actions. With those words echoing in his mind, Kosh-Varda returned to his shuttle, the data crystal feeling heavier than its physical mass should allow. Whatever the Council decided, one thing was certain: the galaxy had changed irrevocably with the return of humanity from the void. And based on what he had witnessed aboard the Phoenix Dawn, Kosh-Varda suspected that the collective was no longer the dominant power it had believed itself to be.